Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Jasmine and today we will be reviewing A Quiet Place Day 1. And I got my notes here, you guys, so if you guys see me looking down here, I have notes because I tend to forget some stuff. So I don't want to forget anything, so let's get started. So, um, Day 1 is a prequel to the previous two films already made, which was A Quiet Place and A Quiet Place 2. And I think I read online that they were going to make a part three, but they wanted to do a prequel before that. And so the prequel was produced by Michael Bay and co-producers Andrew Form, Brad Fuller, and Krasinski. If I mispronounce any of these names, please forgive me. Okay, I'm bilingual, and so I tend to have like a heavy accent due to that. And so here's an interesting thing. The cost of this production was $67 million. Yes, $67 million to make this one film, which on the opposite, the first film only took $17 million to produce, and it made $341 million in profit. So that's a huge margin of profit, right? So it'll be very interesting to see how much more this prequel to A Quiet Place makes. The main characters are Joseph Quinn, who plays Eric, Lupita Nyong'o, who plays Sam, and the cat Frodo. He was actually played by two cats, Nico and Schnitzel. They both played him in the film. And of course, we have returning Hoon So, who plays Henry in both the previous films. So he's kind of like the tie between the other films, and we're kind of just seeing his beginning of how he became the leader in the previous two films. So I really liked this film. It was a really good movie, but the only confusing part about it was that it's a prequel and it didn't really explain anything about the Death Angels, aliens. It didn't actually explain anything. Like, it didn't explain where they came from, what are they doing, are they farming humans, are they eating them? Because in a lot of the scenes, you can see that they're just basically killing people, but they're not really eating them. So, what are they really doing there? Their intention is never mentioned in or throughout the movie at all. And so it's just the whole thing is just kind of like they're going around attacking people in any sound, but their purpose there or why they're there is never explained, which kind of fails as a prequel if you ask me, because the whole purpose of a prequel to two already previous films is to kind of explain their whole purpose, in my opinion, of course. But the movie was great. I think the metaphor behind it is good. And of course, the acting was great, the scenes were great, but the whole purpose of the film is kind of like film is about main character Sam, and at the beginning of the movie, she is at a hospice and she is dying of cancer, and she is at a meeting for hospice. She's she's in hospice at a meeting, and they're basically talking about how they feel, and she's saying everything's shitty. I hate everything. Everything is just not good, right? And so we could see her attitude is mostly of a person who's bitter, who thinks life is unfair, and is not really happy with their circumstances, right? And she's dying of cancer. I mean, nobody's gonna be happy about that. Um, the guy conducting the kind of the meeting is the nurse there at the hospice, and is also her friend. And so he takes a few of the hospice people out to the theater, right? And they see this play. And during this play, which is puppets, the puppet starts to fly like in a balloon, and the balloon pops. And in that scene, we could see Sam. She's kind of tearing up. She's sad. She's kind of thinking like the balloon is a metaphor for her condition, right? Her timer. She doesn't know when she's gonna die. It's just kind of one of those things like she's just waiting for it to happen, and she doesn't know what's gonna happen. Okay, so we could start to see that she starts to get upset, right? She's thinking about she's gonna die, and these are the last few days that she's spending doing this. So while this whole play's going on, and she's thinking about this, right? And as they're leaving, she tells her friend, "Hey, let's go get pizza." And he says, "No, we need to get back on the bus. We'll do it some other time." And she's so adamant about this pizza, right? She's like, "No, I want to go get pizza." Like her last meal in her mind is like, "I want pizza." So she's telling her friend like, "Hey, I want pizza," and he's like, "No, we're gonna do it another time. Let's just get on the bus." And she snaps, and she tells him, "You're not my friend. You're just my nurse. Like I'm gonna go get my last meal, which is this pizza." And they get into this argument, right? She's so upset. You could tell she's like so upset. And she goes back to the bus, right? She feels defeated. She feels hopeless. She feels like nothing goes her way. She's just, she knows she's not doing so good in life. And as she's thinking about this in the bus, you could see, like, on the scene, that there's this window reflecting a pair of stairs heading up, like metaphorically speaking to her, like these are her stairs to heaven, right? And as that scene is going on, all of a sudden the death angels, aliens, come crashing down on Earth, right, on New York City. And then that's kind of the apocalyptic thing happening, like, which is kind of ironic because she's dying already, right? She's got cancer, she's dying, and now the world is ending, which is kind of a reference for her, like, I'm dying, the world is ending, right? That's kind of where this whole thing is heading. And these things, as they descend onto Earth, they crash. There's dust everywhere. Nobody knows what's going on. Everybody just knows that something's happening. And then all of a sudden, you hear people being grabbed here, people being grabbed there, and nobody knows what's happening. And as this is going on, they start to see that anything that makes noise, people are being grabbed, cars are being destroyed, everything's falling apart. Everything that makes noise in the city of New York, which is crazy because the city of New York is huge, right? There's so many people living there, so many people making noise. And I think at the beginning of the movie, they also mentioned that the volume of the city itself is like someone screaming all day, which is insane, right? Because that's the equivalent of somebody screaming all day. And these things decide to crash on New York City and take everybody out to kind of that's making noise. And while this is all going on, she still got cancer. She could have chose to die, but now she's choosing to live despite the world ending. So they're hiding, and of course, because everything's being destroyed, there's a power outage now. They go out of power, and the generator kicks in. And this thing is making so much noise because it's ancient. As her friend goes and checks the generator, he tries to turn it off because it's making so much noise. And so what ends up happening is his shirt gets caught in this generator, and he doesn't notice that. So when he pulls away, the shirt rips. And it is the slightest noise ever. And then one of the aliens just comes and grabs him and takes him away. And in this scene, you could really see the raw emotion from her as she gasps but holds her mouth, right? Because she can't make any noise. And her friend, the only one she was with, just got taken away. But she can't do nothing. She can't scream. She can't yell. All she can do is hold that fear inside within her and just cover her mouth so that nothing can escape. That lets me know that the writers really focused on the body language, right? Because they do an excellent job of just like holding everything in and showing so much raw emotion with their body and their facial expressions, right? Because they can't speak, so they have to speak with their body and convey emotion and everything with their eyes, their mouth, and their body. It's insane. I thought that was such a great scene, and actually, that was one of my favorite scenes because it made me feel something without anyone saying anything. And if you, someone or something can make you feel something without any words, that's insane, right? That's crazy. Um, so yeah, then after that, her friend gets taken away, and she's left alone. So the only person that she was going through with things is gone. And coincidentally, she told the same person, "Hey, you're not my friend." And in real life, when you tell someone, "Hey, we're not friends, we're not nothing," it's like the connection is cut off. You cut off the connection. And what happened? The connection was lost. It translated in that, right? Like the alien's taking him, the connection is gone. He's gone. So there's a lot of like symbolism and metaphoric symbols and signs in this movie, which I thought were really great. But like I said again, it's nothing related to the first and the second film. Like, doesn't explain anything. It's just basically like her going through this whole roller coaster of emotions of should I live or should I die? But it doesn't really explain where these things come from. The movie was great. It's great, right? And so after she loses her friend, she's out on her own, right? She's still got cancer. She's still dying, and now because of everything that's been going on, she doesn't have her medicine, and she's supposed to be on these fentanyl patches, right? So she removes the fentanyl patch that she put on this morning in the beginning of the movie, and she takes it off. Now she's got to live in pain throughout this. She's dying. She's now living in pain, and she's got to go do what she's got to do. But she's still choosing to live despite everything else going wrong, right? And she's determined to go get her pizza. Like, the girl wants pizza. She's gonna go get pizza. And so she ventures out from where she's at, and she decides, no matter what happens, I'm gonna get my pizza. She goes to the store that she was seeing at the beginning of the movie, and she grabs a bag that ironically says, "I love New York." So we could see a shift in her attitude already, because at the beginning of the movie she was like, everything's shitty, shit, 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 shit. But now, ironically, she chooses a "I love a New York" bag, even though New York is up in flames and being destroyed by these creatures. So she grabs this tote bag and is now in pursuit of going to go find pizza. And she sets out throughout the city, trying not to make noise because these things are still out there, right? And as she heads out on her way, she sees these two little kids, or not little kids. I think one of them was like a teenager, and one of them was little, right under a fountain. And that's another thing about this movie, is that you will notice that there's a lot of water, which water really translates. The water on there really represents life, emotions, and the fluidity of time. And it also has this feeling of being baptized. Throughout the movie, they do show some signs of religious factors in there. So she finds these two kids, right? And she decides that she's going to make sure that they get back to the military boat so that they can be taken out of the city and saved. So as she takes these children and they start heading towards the boats, because she now put the pizza aside and it's now going to save these kids, she starts to see that a lot of people are heading out to these military boats where they're now going to be taken out of the city and be saved. So she decides, she puts these kids with all these people that are heading that way, and decides that she's going to head back to get her pizza. But as she does that, she's going against the current, right? There's literally like a large mob of people heading one way, and then she's going the opposite, which tells me that she's going against the current. She's not going with the people, she's staying, right? She knows that she's gonna die, so she's going to stay in the city. So she puts these kids on there, and then of course there's people that have like strollers. Some of them are disabled, they have wheelchairs and stuff, and they start to make noise while they're walking. And what happens, the creatures, aliens, they come out and they start taking the people apart, and everybody starts running towards these boats. So I don't know, in that moment I was just like, wait, did she just leave these kids to die? These kids just literally died there. Like, she took them out of their safe spot and put them there, and now these creatures are attacking everybody that's heading there. Like, I don't know, I just didn't really see the purpose of that. So, and I, of course, I have a soft spot for children, so I thought that was kind of messed up that now we don't know if these children made it or not. And she starts running the opposite way, right? She starts running and she hides, and her cat runs away. As her cat runs away, the cat finds like this other guy, which is the main character, Eric. And this guy is hiding in the water because he's hiding from these creatures. And then all of a sudden, he emerges from the water, as to say he is birthed by water or cleansed or baptized, metaphorically, right? Because in the movie, he just emerged from water, but that's kind of like the sense that you're supposed to get from it, is that he was being birthed by water or cleansed by water. And later on, when that in that one scene where he meets her, he tells her that he's a lawyer, he's a lawyer, which kind of reminds you that lawyers are kind of shady. And maybe that was like him being baptized by water, being cleansed, right? So the cat leads him back to her. Um, who knows why? But the cat has been like her protector all along, and now the cat has brought him to her, kind of like a fated meet. I'm not going to say they're soulmates, but it's definitely like you get this feeling of like they're supposed to meet. And they meet, right? And she's out there to get her pizza. She still doesn't give a crap. And he starts following her. And she's like telling him, like silently, like go away, stay. Like, why are you doing? Why are you following me? And then all of a sudden it starts raining, and she tells him like, hey, because remember they can speak underwater because the water blocks out the sound. And she tells him like, why are you following me? Why are you following me? And it's never clear as to why he's following her, except that maybe he's really scared to be by himself, so he just kind of attaches himself to her. And she tells him like, look, this is my mission, I'm gonna go out and get my pizza, and whatever happens with you is gonna happen with you. But he decides to stay with her, and so he's following her now, and they're both now on a mission to go for pizza, which it still doesn't make sense throughout the movie into kind of when you get to that. And so there they go. They head back to her apartment, and they're hiding there. It's raining. There's thunderstorms. And so the guy, he knocks the door to the apartment because they can't find her keys. So they're now like they're unable to get in there. So he knocks the door out, and they're now inside of her apartment. And she just starts telling him like, hey, I have cancer, I'm gonna die. And he shows her this diary where she's been keeping, like, this is how much time they gave me, this is how long it's been, and today is the day that I'm supposed to die. And he just felt so much sadness within him, like, oh my god, like, she's supposed to die today and she hasn't died. So then they kind of so it kind of now lets you know, like, hey, today she's supposed to die. That's why she's so adamant about going to go get her last meal. And then she pulls out a picture too, right? Like she shows him a picture of her dad or her grandpa. I'm not really sure. I kind of forgot. And I guess he died of cancer too, and he used to play at that pizza place. And that's why she is so conveyed by this memory that she now needs to head there and be in this place where her dad was. And he understands, right? And so they both head out to this pizza parlor and decide that they're going to get pizza. And of course, while they're going there, they have to evade these creatures. And so now they're both on their way, and they end up making noise, so they have to hide inside this building. And as they're passing one of the buildings, there's a sign on the back that's of a watch, which symbolizes time passing by, right? The time, her timer, she has a time clock that she's counting that, hey, I could drop dead at any given moment. It doesn't matter. I'm gonna die. And so then they end up heading down to the subs because they're hiding from these monsters. And after heading there, I guess the train tunnels are all flooded with water. And they're heading there through this little, like, river of water now, through this big passage of water. And there's a monster on the top that's trying to get them, and they're trying to escape. And so now they're traveling, both of them are traveling through this river of water. And then they crawl out of this cave, which ironically at the top, at the beginning of this cave, was a number 6. Definitely a symbolism for maybe like a gate of hell or something like that. And so then they crawl out of this tunnel and end up in a church. So they now cross the river of life and now end up in a church. And it's just like, okay, so are they being baptized and now being cleansed through this river of whatever it is and end up in a church? Because I don't know, just a little bit odd, because the whole movie is supposed to be the apocalypse and the world ending and these creatures, but we are now going through her whole journey of her life, of death, and emotions about it. It's just, yeah, the whole movie missed the whole movie because this is supposed to be a film about aliens and the world ending, but now we're going through somebody else's ending, right? Because she's gonna die of cancer and this is her ending. So then once they finally get to this pizza parlor, it's destroyed. Sorry. It's burned down. And there's a hole on the ground, spitting out fire everywhere, and she cries on the floor, on her knees, in defeat, because this is the only place that she wanted to come to, and it is destroyed. So she heads back to this bar. They go to this bar where they're currently staying, and he ventures out, and I guess he ends up finding like another pizza parlor, and he brings back pizza. And so now they're gonna eat pizza. She finally gets her wish about eating pizza because he helps her get that pizza. And they're at this bar where her dad used to play, and there's a piano, and he does this little like card trick to kind of do a little magic for her, so to cheer her up. And as he does this, he pulls out I think it's like a 9 of cloves or something, but the card, when I looked it up related to it, it's translated in tarot as a test of faith. as persistence, also symbolizing that she needed to persist in this journey through her cancer. Again, nothing related to the movie. Um, it's kind of like her own journey, right? And now that she kind of got her last wish, and he's happy that he got her his last wish. I don't know why, because they were complete strangers. But I guess he's a good guy, so he helps her. And now she's gonna help him get back to these boats, right? And she chooses to stay, so she's guiding him back to these military boats to get her to the city. And as she's heading there, she's making all this noise. She's hitting cars, and he's running. He's running. He takes the cat with him. She tells him like, "Hey, save my cat. Don't overfeed him. Take him with you." So he's now taking this cat with him to these military boats, and these things they start chasing after him, and he's running and he's running and he's running, and he barely makes it and jumps into the water. Of course, again, another body of water, another cleansing. These things obviously they cannot get into the water, so that's the one thing that they do specify in this film is that these things hate water. So that might, I don't know if they maybe they make a third film, they're really going to specify as to why these things can't get into the water. But he gets into the ocean, and the boats pull him in, and he takes off in these boats. And then of course they go back to the to where she's at. You know, she's happy, she feels alive, she feels hope. Throughout the movie it has definitely shifted her view of life. She feels hope now. She feels okay. Like even though she's gonna die, she now comes to terms that she's gonna die whenever she wants, and that's exactly what they show at the end of the film is her committing suicide, but not really suicide. It's more like I'm gonna die in my own terms when I want, not on a timer, not because of this cancer. And she plays this boombox outside on the street, and the things will they just start running towards her, but then the film ends, and that's kind of where it ends. mm, my thought about this movie was it was really good, but like I said, to it didn't really relate to any apocalyptic event or why those things were there. The emotion of the movie was there. I thought it was great. Her storyline was great, and I think what I got out of this film was that, like, the moral of the story was kind of like, don't lose faith, regardless if you feel hopeless about things. And I only say that because there was the religious factors, right, that played a part of this movie, which was the church, kind of like the cleansing of the water, which symbolizes like being baptized in that way, and when he was handing out the cards, right, which meant faith of test, and when he turned it around, the back of the card had little angels in it. So ironically, these things called death angels, but now there's also like angels involved in there. So it was definitely a movie about a test of faith, but nothing related to apocalyptic. I guess apocalyptic could be your own personal problems, right? Because we don't need the world to end for our own world to end, is what I really got out of this movie. And I thought that was it was decent. I will give it a 6, a 7 out of 10. I did enjoy the movie. I was not falling asleep, and despite the fact that there wasn't a lot of words to it, I was very entertained. And I did see that on Rotten Tomatoes, it had like I think it was like an 82% rating, 70, 80% rating. And I think on IMBD, it had like a 6.5 rating. So the movie was pretty decent, but if you're expecting like an explanation as to film one and two, This was definitely not it. I have to be realistic. Is it a good movie? Yes, it is. It is a good movie. There's a lot of symbolism and a lot of signs, and if you know how to spot them, you will see what this movie's about. But if you're going in there just to see some action and an explanation, you might be a little bit disappointing. But anyways, that was my review, and that's all, folks.